Welcome to WikiAfrica Hour, where Africa's Wikimedians talk to, learn from, and discuss with each other topics they choose. Each session is curated by African Wikimedians to expand Africa's open movement. Today's host is Ceslause Ogbonnaya.
Hello, viewers, and Happy New Year to you all. I welcome you to another awesome episode of the WikiAfrica Hour titled Offline Tech Bridge, which is our ninth episode. I'm Ceslause Ogbonnaya, your host, and you might not know, but about 4.5 billion people are disconnected. Talk about to the internet and to electricity. And this is a divide, and the 60% of the world who could benefit the most from open resources and open knowledge and supporting tools, they lack the connectivity needed to access them. Some very special individuals whom we've invited today are carrying out initiatives and projects that have taken it upon themselves, of course, to do the Herculean task involved in bridging the gap of this divide. And they are here with us today to share their journey with us. This action reiterates the aim for which the Wiki in Africa activated the Wiki Africa Hour podcast, which is one to share current updates and highlights of Africa Wikimedians' activities, and then interact with guests, if any, and take questions from community members, and then to promote synergy within the Wiki community by discussing topics, projects, constraints, collaborations, and opportunities. You may have heard about Kiwis or not, but just in case you haven't, it's a tool that gives offline access to information. Open Foundation West Africa and Wiki Project Med Foundation, they've aligned themselves with Kiwis on very interesting initiatives in order to promote passive reading and access to information. And just in case you haven't heard about WikiFundi, it's also an offline tool that helps one to create, edit, and contribute on Wikipedia. These tools are great for locations where there are no internet and electricity. Please make welcome our guests in the persons of Ruby Brown from Open Foundation West Africa, Doc James from Wiki Project Med Foundation, Aboubacar Keita from Wikimedia Guinea Conakry, and Florence Devouard from Wiki in Africa as we engage them. Hello, Ruby. Hello, Doc James.
Hi,
Excellent. Thank you for having us.
thank you
Oh, the
so
pleasure
much
is always
for inviting
ours.
us.
You're welcome. And
Yeah.
then we were going to start with you, Ruby. Could you please introduce yourself briefly?
Okay, thank you so much, Ceslause, for the invitation. My name is Ruby Dameshi Brown from Ghana, and currently I'm pursuing a fellowship at the Wikimedia Foundation. But prior to that, I was the administrative executive at Open Foundation West Africa, where I also doubled as the programs officer. I'm happy to be here and to share insight about our project on Kiwis during the time that I was there. Yeah.
Thank you for that introduction. The fight for connecting the disconnected population to free and open knowledge has been on for a while now. How did Open Foundation West Africa get involved? I mean, how did they get into this fight?
Okay, so one of the main objective or aim that Open Foundation have had has been to introduce open resources to community, especially open educational resources, and how people can benefit from it. So one of the things that inspired us to launch the Kiwis for School project was first of all from Felix Nati, who initially launched this in the northern region in northern region of Ghana. And this yielded great impact because of the feedback that we got and how we introduced and implemented the project in the region. And following that, we have been running a program called SOS, Summer Open School, where we bring students and passionate youth together and introduce them to open educational resources. It was from there that Maxwell Beganim got the inspiration to implement the project as a pilot in Kumasi, and it also yielded very great impact as teachers were calling us to come and implement these device in their region. And so when I joined Open Foundation West Africa, I was like, no, we need to officialize this project because we've got people looking out for it, people wanting that tool or device in the computer laboratories of their school. So we came out, how do we reach all these communities? How, what will be the sustainable way to implement such a project? So we came up with what we call the Kiwis for School project, where we made available what we call mini fund, Kiwis mini fund. And this mini fund was for community members who saw the need of these open educational resources or Kiwis in schools in their community to apply for a mini fund to support them to implement it in their region. And that enabled us to reach regions like different regions in Ghana, which I mean, it would have taken a lot of effort to try to mobilize people, to send people around. But this method was more sustainable because we only had to open a call and then ask people who felt the need of that device in their region to apply for a mini fund, and then we supported them. And also, this was easy for us because we had communities in these regions. We have Wikimedia communities already existing in this region. And these are community members who join meetups in those regions. We have hubs in those regions with hub leaders who are facilitating trainings in those regions. So they understand the concepts, they understand this thing. So when they applied for the mini fund, one of the things that we did was to train them, build their capacity, introduce them to what exactly the in-depth of KWIX and how they can implement it. So once we build their capacity, we give them the devices, show them practically how they can install them on computer labs, and they were able to do that in the school. I don't know if you want me to go on and on, but there's a whole lot
Oh,
of stories.
of course.
Yes,
I mean, from what you mentioned, Open Foundation West Africa actually needed to work with, let's say, Wikimedia Ghana local community members to get this to happen.
not Wikimedia Ghana. We work with
Okay.
our Open Foundation West Africa community members. So what it is that
Oh, community members.
Open,
Okay, not
Open
Wikimedia
Foundation,
community members.
yeah, Wikimedia community members, not Wikimedia. We have Wikimedia Ghana, but this is just our community members in respective regions. So we have
Oh,
Open
okay.
Foundation West Africa have about 5 hubs across Ghana, which we
Okay.
manage and coordinate. So we want to make everyone or give everyone the opportunity to learn about Wikimedia project and how they can benefit. So not just Accra, because Accra is just like the capital of Ghana, but there are other regions that also need to know about Wikipedia. They need to learn about benefit on the resources that are available in the community. So we have all these hubs available. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you for mentioning the SOS program. Hopefully,
Yes.
with time we get to hear more about it. I mean, maybe at
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
wider range beyond Ghana, at least the West Africa, like you guys set out to do. And then moving forward to the next question for you, Ruby, is there a possibility for you to perhaps show us or explain how this Kiwix works?
Okay. So basically, Skillix is an offline device. It's a device that enables you to access educational resources that you would usually have gotten online, but this time you get it offline. And so these
Is it nice?
sorry, I'm getting a feedback. Um, what it
Sorry,
is that
continue.
these
Okay.
resources that are online are converted into a zip file and put in a folder. So you can get it handy and put it on a pen drive. And then once it's on a drive, you can just go to any computer, install it, and then you have it in a form of a folder where you open the
Okay.
folder and then you can access these resources. Even you can access TED Talks videos. You don't need
Oh,
internet to watch these TED Talks. You can access. So what we did is that we try to tailor it good. So we try to tailor the content because with the secondary schools that we are implementing this project, they don't need everything that is out there. So we need to be concise and precise with what kind of materials are these will benefit these students. So we're looking at science subjects, we look at mathematics, we look at biology and Wiktionary, and we don't need a whole entire Wikipedia. So these are things that we picked from Wikipedia and put converted it as a zim file for it to be handy in a form of a pen drive, and then they install it. So what the students do is that when they get to the school, they install this Kiwis on each of the devices on the computer laboratories of the schools. So when they install it, they bring together the school. And because we cannot have all the students in one class, what we did is that we picked ambassadors from each of the class. So let's say if we go to secondary school, we're looking at SS1, SS2, SS3. We pick samples from each class, and these students serve as ambassadors to train other students that are in the classroom. So we bring them together, we train them on how they can access the KWIX on the computer lab. So anytime they come to the computer lab, they know that okay, this is where I can access biology subject. This is where I can access sociology or something like. Sorry, not sociology. Let's say mathematics, or sort of. So it's something that is worth it. In as much as KWIX is a very good device, and something that is really helping secondary schools in Ghana. Another challenge that we have seen while implementing this project was that lack of um, infrastructures like computer laboratories. And when you come to our part of the world where we have very large students in classes, very large number of students in schools with just one computer laboratory serving the entire school, the ratio to students and computer ratio, the ratio to students and computer was very wide margin. And when we did an average, because whilst we're allowing them to implement the project, we took data, we tried to do research along the way. So they collected information from the school. When we did the ratio, it was 1 to 99 average, which is, I mean, in as much as we want to reach people, how many people are we reaching at a time with killings?
Okay.
It means that the problem of infrastructure also needs to be addressed for people to actually access or benefit from this device. Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that elaborate explanation about how the Kiwis functions. Let's bring in James, and then we can get back to you later. Hello, Dr. James.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning and good evening from this side. Please briefly introduce yourself.
Certainly, yes. So I'm James Hilman. I'm an emergency physician here in Cranbrook, Canada. I've been an active Wikipedian since almost 15 years now. Was involved with founding the Wiki Project Med Foundation as well as Wikimedia Canada, and I just finished a term on the board of the Wikimedia Foundation.
Thank you for that introduction. James, from launching an app in June 2015 to jumping in the world of offline projects, how did Wiki Project Med Foundation join this fight?
Yeah, certainly. So, I began my voyage within the Wikimedia movement working on English Wikipedia. And then, over time, I realized just how extensively Wikipedia is used in other languages and just how many other languages Wikipedia exists in. I've been attending Wikimania since 2012, and in Isinalario, I met S.J. Klein, who probably many of you folks know. So that was 2016. And S.J. introduced me to this amazing little device that you load Wikipedia on it. And voila, everybody can connect to this device with their cell phone. And all of a sudden, Wikipedia exists in an offline environment. So I began looking more into this project. There's a lot of people globally who need access to healthcare information, and no one was sort of manufacturing and distributing these devices. So we within Wiki Project Med Foundation began putting together these devices, working with the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and we began distributing these devices at cost, so that those who don't want to figure out how to build them themselves can simply send our organization the cost of the underlying hardware, and we'll mail them one.
Thank you for that. And I saw you. I mean, the audience also saw you brandishing the Kiwis device, and it scares me to think about perhaps those people who can't access maybe health or medical related information in this pandemic period. It's really scary. How does this period we live in make you feel about what Wiki Project Med has set out to do?
Yeah, no, exactly. So right now, healthcare information is even more critical than usual. But we have shipped these devices to Syria during the war. These devices have ended up in Cuba. We've shipped them to physicians in the United Kingdom who are flying to Cuba to do work, and they bring these devices with them. So over the years, we've distributed a few hundred of these devices around the world, and this, among our other efforts, improves access to people who have delicate connections to the outside world.
Nice. Good to know that this sort of puts you guys in front of what you've set out to do. I mean, you are catching up to the challenges you had set out to take care of by instituting the Wiki Project Med. And then taking a stand in the fight to connect the disconnected population. Wiki Project Med has launched the Internet in a Box project. Could you please explain this Internet in a Box initiative to us, though?
Yeah, certainly. So that was the device I showed. It fits in the palm of your hand. It's very similar to the Kiwis device. It's running on a Raspberry Pi 0W. It has a 128 gigabyte SD card in it. We preload it with all of English Wikipedia plus other content that a user wants, and then we toss them in the mail and send them to folks. All you have to do is plug it in. It generates a Wi-Fi signal. Anybody close to that Wi-Fi signal can log on to it, say with their smartphone or whatever. And then once you're logged on, you can browse Wikipedia and other resources just like you would online via the Wi-Fi signal, and without any of the data costs or limitations around connectivity.
Okay, that's absolutely nice. Learning how this functions and gives access to what is in the box. And then I understand that you launched the translation task force in 2011, NC Commons in March 2021, and then you updated ZIMS in April 2021. Do these three work in tandem to make Internet in a Box work? I mean, how does this marriage work? Explain to us, please.
Yeah, exactly. So first one need to generate the content to put it onto the device, and our efforts on working to improve English Wikipedia, working to improve MD working to get health content translated into other languages is the first key step before one can then package the content that's being generated into either offline apps or load it with ZIMS onto a device like Internet in a Box or Kiwis. So we have one amazing translator from India, for example, by the name of Subha Chandra Root. He has translated almost 2,000 articles on key medical topics from English into his language, Odia, generating some of the first content to ever exist on the internet in that language. So here we have a population of 40 million individuals who speak this language, and without our movement, without the Wikimedia movement, these folks would not get access to healthcare information. As you know, they're not the wealthiest individuals. There's no big corporation creating content for them. But here we are as volunteers. You know, we're able to make a difference in these people's lives.
Thank you so much, Doc. And then you've shipped the internet in a box to about 13 countries. I mean, can we get a highlight apart from the ones you mentioned, and perhaps is Africa on this list?
Yeah, certainly. So, you know, I've shipped a number of devices to Ghana, for example. There's an NGO called Ghana Together that supports both a high school as well as a nursing college. And they ordered a number of devices as the nursing college they were supporting had no access to the internet. Since then, you know, the college has developed, you know, has gotten some internet access, but I've also, you know, shipped devices to Malawi, I've shipped devices to the DRC, I've shipped devices to South Africa, and surprisingly, every device I've shipped so far has arrived. Some of them have taken longer than you know folks would hope. You know, sometimes shipping can take 3-4 months, but I haven't had any devices go missing yet.
Hmm. That's great because I mean this kind of device that gives access to health related information is really needed in somewhere like Africa amongst other regions. Thank you, Doc. So far, let's move back to the Open Foundation West Africa guys. Actually, Ruby was trying to fill in for Max, who has joined us. Hello, Max. Are you here? Hello, Max. Oh, I hope he has not disappeared again. Oh, that's sad. I can't hear him. So we continue with Max
I think he was muted. He's muted if he cannot mute.
muted.
Um,
Only him could actually unmute it from that side. But before he figures that out, Ruby, the Open Foundation West Africa initiated Kiwis for schools in 2019. Please, can you give us much more insight beyond what you already said about the initiative?
Okay, so like I said, that the initiative, we thought that we wanted to send, um, give opportunity to other regions, and so we called out
Okay.
to Wikimedia communities that are under our umbrella, that's Open Foundation communities, to submit a proposal so that we could support them to implement the project. So what they did was that they looked for community like schools in their communities which needed that tool. What I also observed during this project was that not every school needed it, because there were some schools that felt that it was not needed in their school. But the trend that we realized was that schools in very remote areas, or which are not really in urban areas, actually needed it. And we've done trainings for teachers which they really felt the need for this tool. And so when we get community members applying for this mini fund, we supported them to be able to implement it, because I mean these are community members, and so they need some sort of support to, for instance, transportation, feeding, and all other things. And then they also needed devices. So what it is that we provided them with the pen drives with the Kiwis installed on it already, so that it's much more easy. They are not doing the downloads themselves. We transported these pen drives and materials and souvenirs that they could give to schools, to these volunteers, and then they try to implement it in the region.
Hmm.
So that's basically how it runs. So what one of the things that we observed while they were implementing the project was that it took kind of a longer time to do that, because when you get to we send them in pairs. So when you get to the school, you need to install on each of the computer laboratories. And that took a longer time because you need to do that before you train the students. So noticing this problem, we devised a new strategy where community members did it very early before the training, so that they don't spend the whole day, or they could do it a day before the training. So another challenge was that whilst they were doing that, they realized that some of the computer labs are very slow. Some of the computer labs are not even working. So you need to test each and every computer, and doing that is kind of a cumbersome work and tedious. So this brings us to a very good option, which is the Raspberry Pi, which we don't have at the moment. If you use the Raspberry Pi, you don't need to go through that stress of installing in each of the computer labs. Another
Okay.
thing that we felt would be also good was to have localized content, because what it is that all these contents are not necessarily tailored to suit the curriculum that we have at the moment. So if we could have one that is tailored, which I think the project that the Wikimedia Foundation education team is implementing now can help us, which is to put the Ghanaian curriculum on Wikidata, and then we could have access to materials that are tailored to the need of this um, students or target audiences. And another thing that I want to share is that we didn't target every grade for this project. Our main target was for secondary schools, because most of the secondary schools have computer lab, and most of the primary schools do not have computer lab, especially those in remote areas. You go to a primary school, they don't have computer lab. So it was not really our main focus. Our main focus was to target secondary schools, and also give them access to these devices.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing the lessons you've learned with
Yeah.
us. But then again, I couldn't help but hear you mention that the Wikimedia community members you were hoping to work with, they sort of brought in some schools that didn't need it. So in Open Foundation West Africa's terms, what is the best? Like who needs this? How do you profile the individuals or schools that actually need this by your own standards? Please let us know that. Okay.
Okay, so it was not our thing to profile or eliminate in a school, but the community members themselves who spoke with the schools. Because before we do any implementation, we had to send out letters, and we had drafted letters that are already drafted to support these community members, so they don't have to now draft it and all that. So they go to the school, talk to the head teachers or leaders of the school about the project, introduce them the benefit and all that. And then a school can say that no, we already have been sponsored with internet for use for the school. Or another school would say that our computer labs, sorry, our computers are in such a way that you can put an external um, thing on it. They've been designed in that way. And so for those schools, they brought those kind of feedback, and we couldn't do anything about that. So it was left for the community person who was leading that initiative to determine which school needed it. But when we looked at the trend, like I said earlier, schools that are remote areas are more open to it and actually needed it more, because they needed what is like when you do it in the school, another teacher from another school, which is a friend to that teacher, also calls like they need it. But when you come to the urban areas like Accra, you get a very different responses. But I'm not sure if this is the whole Accra, but the few like major schools, secondary schools in Accra that community members wanted to implement that project, we didn't get a positive feedback like we had from, because they felt that their computer labs um, were designed in a way that you can't put external things on it, and what was more stricter, and the process was more difficult than when you compare it to other part of Ghana. So that is the whole idea.
Thank you very much. At least one of the criteria that you mentioned is that it has to be a school in a remote area. I wish we could get a much more streamlined profile of who the target audience is and all that, but hopefully that will get better with time. Hello, Max, are you here yet? Hello, Max, your mic is muted. Oh, I'm so sad. So sad we couldn't engage Max today. Uh, okay. So, Doc James, we are going to ask the last questions that we have for you, and that's how do you manage to evaluate the impact of your initiatives? I mean, the Internet in a Box, for instance. How do you manage to evaluate the impact?
Yeah, so we've looked at a few different things, and we have a number of different projects where we're able to collect impact in various ways. So, for example, we have an offline app through the Google Play Store that we have developed in collaboration with Kiwis, and we get very detailed information about who downloads the app, who uses the app from the Google Play Store. And what we have found is we found that 80% of those who are using this offline app are doing so from low and middle income countries such as India, Pakistan, Nepal being the three most used. The app has about 100,000 downloads in English, and then we have versions in about a dozen other languages. And then, when it comes to these offline devices, it's a little bit harder to collect impact information from this. We did a trial in collaboration with the Wikimedia Foundation of these devices in healthcare clinics in Nigeria, and we got some useful data that folks found it helpful there. And then physicians who have carried these devices to various parts in the developing world have gathered feedback from those who've used devices as well. With respect to our translation effort, we have a new translation dashboard that automatically generates the impact of our efforts. It shows, for example, how many translations have been done by our volunteers, how many languages are being worked on, how many words have been translated, and then how many page views the newly created articles have generated since those newly created articles have been generated. So, but once you move into the fully offline world, when you're at the halfway between online and offline, you can get data. But once you're fully offline, you just got to do stuff because you believe it's going to be it's going to make a difference in people's lives. Much harder to generate hard numbers.
Okay. Thank you for that insight. At least I know the Google Play Store has enough resources to help you keep track of who does what as concerns the app. And I'm glad to know that Nigeria is in view in terms of what the Wiki project Med is doing in the nearest future. Thank you so much, Ruby, and thank you once again, Doc James. We'll be moving on to the second panel so we can still keep track of time. And hopefully someone would have questions for you too during the Q&A section. So moving on to the panel two, where we would engage Aboubacar from Wikimedia Guinea Conakry to talk about WikiChallenge Ecoles d'Afrique, and Florence from Wiki in Africa to talk about WikiFundi. Hello, Florence.
Hello.
Please introduce yourself for those who don't know
So
you.
enjoy the sunset, please. This is not a background. This is really the sun over the sea. And yeah, within 2 or 3 minutes it will be gone. But that's the moment where I'm a half person. So my full name is Florence Devouard. My username is Anthere. I just celebrated a few days ago my 20 years on Wikipedia since I joined in January 2002. And different roles over the last 20 years. I have been a founding member of Wikimedia France back in 2004, former chairwoman of Wikimedia Foundation. And in 2013, I co-founded Wiki in Africa with Isla Haddow-Flood. And today, my hat on is as a co-lead and one of the project manager of WikiFundi.
Thank you for such an awesome resume of yourself, Florence. And then moving forward to the next question, a lot of people are probably not familiar with WikiChallenge African Schools and WikiFundi as a tool. How do you present these two things to first timers?
Okay, so I want to explain something to make it clear because I know it's a question that comes very often. So what's the difference between WikiFundi and Kiwis, for example? How does it differ in terms of offline project? Kiwis has been around for now many years. It's a very successful project. I love it. And I know the team pretty well that is behind Kiwis. The one thing is that Kiwis is a read-only device. That's a system that allows to have access to offline resources, but it's read-only. And the reason why we decided to create WikiFundi is that it was initially meant to answer a big question. Have you ever wanted to work on a document with your peers, with the students, with the teachers, but you cannot do it because the data is too expensive, the internet is unreliable, or the electricity is down? And WikiFundi became the answer to that question in this, that it's a tool that can be used offline to edit Wikipedia articles or edit Wikipedia articles or any wiki articles, actually. So essentially, WikiFundi is an offline open source web platform which allows you to edit some wiki articles in an environment that is not Wikipedia, but that looks like Wikipedia, that feels like Wikipedia. And for maybe some of you have one day tried to install on their own server MediaWiki, which is the software behind Wikipedia. And when you do, and I have done so about 15 years ago, I think. And when you do so, you have what we call a vanilla version of MediaWiki. And this version lacks all the cool features, all the cool functionalities that makes Wikipedia looks like Wikipedia. For example, you don't have all the navigation boxes and so on. So the idea behind WikiFundi was to actually propose this software platform that could be an addition to Kiwis and allow people to edit stuff online. So Kiwis is read-only, and WikiFundi is meant to actually engage people to create stuff, to publish stuff afterwards on the internet. So to become actors as well, and not only readers, passive readers. So it's a different approach, right? Now the second thing that we will talk, and mostly Aboubacar will talk, is the WikiChallenge Ecoles d'Afrique, and essentially it's an education project that uses WikiFundi and Kiwis and many other things, roughly.
Yeah. So thank you for that insight and brief overview between the two tools. And then can you give us just a glimpse of what WikiChallenge Africa Schools is about, or WikiChallenge Ecoles d'Afrique, as they call it in French?
Yeah. So I want to give you a little story to explain how it emerged, actually, and that will be a good complement to what I think Ruby and James explained. Back in 2013, 2014, we ran a first project in Uganda and Ivory Coast. And that project was essentially to organize training sessions, mostly in the capital. And once we were doing this, the problem we met was often internet missing. So people ended up organizing their training session with using paper and pen. And we thought it was a bit ridiculous. This is when we decided to move on and imagine this thing that could be WikiFundi. When it required quite a lot of work. So we thought we needed some funding, in particular to pay all the developers that would be working on this. And to do that, we went to talk with Orange Fondation, Fondation Orange, which is the non-profit arm behind the Orange company, the communication provider. And we described to them what we wanted to do. And actually, it really clicked because on their side, they were actually starting a network of digital schools, of a digital school in rural area in French-speaking Africa. And they had decided to provide, Kiwis at that time, And there were some offline resources. They were providing Raspberry Pi servers. So we have mentioned them a lot, but we haven't seen them yet. So here's typically a Raspberry in the light in the sun. This is a typical Raspberry. This is the smallest version of a server. You plug it in the electricity or a battery, and you have some cable. This is an old version, or more recent one. But they had this in the schools, and they had tablets for the kids. And the problem is that this was delivered in the schools, but no one was using them. The tablets, the Raspberry Pi, the resources, everything stayed somewhere locked in the director office, and no one was using them. Mostly because a little bit of fear, hesitation, but also, it's very precious. It was given to us. We don't want to break it. We don't want it to be stolen. And of course, no idea what to do with it. They didn't know what to do with this stuff that was delivered to the school. So they needed to have a sort of an excuse, of a reason to use that. And the program director at Orange at that time thought a good idea would be to actually use WikiFundi, the development of that future software solution, to actually lead the kids to use the system, to use the tablets and such, through a contest, a writing contest. And so it was excellent, and we are always wondering within Wikimedia how we could do partnership with the other organization, and that was a typical one. Orange had the schools, they had the network, they had the devices, and we had the possibility to run a contest. And that's how we somehow managed to become partner on this. And the Fondation Orange funded the development of WikiFundi to help develop that very writing contest in the schools. Does that answer your question, actually?
Yes, it does. So when the Orange Foundation asked about how best they could get people to use the devices that are made available to them, WikiChallenge Ecoles was the answer. Of course, with the help of WikiFundi.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And to simplify the path to Abu, let me explain that we have been running this contest for 5 years now. It's in 9 French-speaking African countries, and one of them is Guinea. And I contacted Abu 2 years ago because normally the contest is organized by Fondation Orange people in the countries. And of course, these people are not Wikipedian. They know nothing about wikis. So I thought it was a good idea to get them connected with Wikimedian when I could. So they are connected to Wikimedia Tunisia in Tunisia. They are connected to Nfana in Mali. And they were connected to Cameroon as well through George and Minette. And Abu was one such connection. And that's how he became involved in the project.
Yeah, thank you so much for that foresight. Salut Abu. Abu, vous êtes là? Aboubacar has been having a network challenge. You see, this is one of the reasons why offline projects is actually very useful to our movement and the learning of digital skills. It's sad to see that the internet is sabotaging him.
Yeah, we're all the time struggling with those things, right?
Yes, and then Florence, let's move to the next question for you while we wait for Abu to reconnect. In a world where many adults are still struggling with getting equipped with technology, skills and all to function better in, let's say, their workspaces or their daily lives, WikiChallenge Africa Schools decides to hand digital skills and offline skills precisely to a bunch of kids. Why is that?
Well, I think it's very important that these kids, they are not yet online, but they need to prepare themselves to be there very, very quickly. And we need for that to be sure that they have the digital skills, but also the social skills, some understanding of what intellectual property right is, some notions around security. So they have a lot to learn about. and they will probably have to learn that way more quickly than, for example, my kids had, because they had a few years to do that. So we thought we can only bring one little piece to that puzzle, but at least all of us Wikipedian, we are quite strong in terms of digital skills. We can bring our piece to the system. When we do the contest, for example, we know that the kids might not use all the technology solutions that are to their proposed to them. But even if they only manage to get these tablets out of the drawer, to get it on the table, is something amazing. And I hope Abu will show up again, because he was live enjoying this. You could see the eyes of the kids that became, open like this, and were just, wow. It's very interesting to read the texts that are produced by these kids, because most of these kids are untouched yet by all the digital world. So they have a very different approach in telling the stories about their culture. So all of that was to try to make them at least a little bit more familiar with that. And the best solution for us is to do it through schools.
That's really interesting. I mean, these kids learning this way in advance. Elon Musk should better watch his back. Abou, vous êtes là?
Abou?
Oui, je suis là. J'ai juste vraiment aujourd'hui un vrai problème de connexion, mais ça va.
Oui, finalement. Ah bon, vous pouvez commencer par vous présenter, s'il vous plaît.
Bien. Alors, moi, je suis Keita Aboubacar, connu sous le nom de Aboubacar Keita sur les projets Wikimedia. Je suis le facilitateur du projet WikiChallenge Ecoles d'Afrique pour la Guinée depuis 2021 maintenant.
So
Et
what is saying,
je suis le
just
président
don't
du
do,
groupe d'études.
Aboubacar, do let me the time to translate, or I will forget some elements. So essentially you're saying that your name, Aboubacar Keita, you are the president of Wikimedia Guinea user group, have been for a while, and the founder of the group as far as I know, and you are the project manager of WikiChallenge Ecoles d'Afrique in Guinea.
Yeah, and please excuse me to reiterate that the WikiAfrica Hour platform is a bilingual platform where we use both English and French. And as we are going to be engaging Abu, who speaks French, Florence will be helping us with the translations. Thank you. Bon, Abu, pour passer à la deuxième question, et merci pour l'introduction. En tant que président de Wikimedia Guinée-Conakry, quelle était la situation du mouvement libre au Guinée avant l'arrivée du concours WikiChallenge Ecoles d'Afrique?
Ceslause, maybe you can repeat the question in English for the audience.
Bon, je demande en tant que président d'user groupe de Wikimedia Conakry, quelle était la situation du mouvement libre au Guinée en général avant l'arrivée du concours WikiChallenge Ecoles d'Afrique?
Merci beaucoup. Et déjà avant l'arrivée de non seulement depuis 2018 de notre groupe, nous avons fait des actions qui nous ont permis de nous approcher des universités, des centres d'études, des bibliothèques et autres. Mais on n'avait pas affaire avec des enfants pour créer cette continuation du projet parce que nous sommes là depuis un temps. Il faut préparer.
Oh, this is so sad. I think Abu has been cut off, but before he was cut off, he was explaining to us that before the arrival of WikiChallenge Africa schools, that they were just engaging universities and all, and in terms of getting editors. That before the WikiChallenge, they had never had to interface with kids. So WikiChallenge brought about their interaction with kids and having to help these kids learn the digital skills and, of course, how to contribute to the open movement. Let me see if he's back. Hello, Abu.
So whilst you're looking for him, I can explain a little bit more about the basics
Please,
of the
that would be nice.
contest. So the way it operates is that the schools that are involved in the education program are members, are all schools members of the digital network from Orange Foundation, which means that all of them are already equipped. So that's a big difference with what Ruby is facing. Our kids already have the material in the schools that is being set up and supposedly working. Then we actually set up the contest not on Wikipedia, because the kids we are talking about are 9 to 13, 14 years old. And we all know that editing Wikipedia when you're 9 to 14 it's too complicated in terms of writing skills. So instead, we went to the Wikidia project, which is a children-based encyclopedia meant for children and written by children and adults. And maybe you can add the link to the display. The Wikidia project is not part of the Wikimedia network officially as affiliate, but it is mostly maintained by Wikipedian. It is supported by Wikimedia France, and it will, I hope, be very soon a member of the WikiFranca network. So the contest is all happening there. And what we do is that we ask the kids to propose text related to their environment. So it may be about the culture, it may be about a geographical feature, or it may be about an important person. And the good news is that there is so little content about those places in any cases that we have no real fear of overlapping information. Once they write it when they are in the school, so people like Abu or Abu's team go to the schools, they explain what to do, and they explain to them how to use the tablet, how to look for information such as in Kiwis, for example. And usually all the articles are being written with the teachers and or the opportunity to go in the field. If it's to write an article about a lake, for example, they will go and do a visit to the lake with the boats, and they would take some pictures. Same thing if they are visiting a museum, if there is a museum around, that's the case often in Tunisia. Or if it's around a person, they will go and try to interview the person, for example. But most of the time, they will write about cultural activities. I mean, stuff related to their culture or religion, for example. So practices they have in their village or in their region. They will often write about food, about cooking. It's something, the articles are really funny and not completely within Wikipedia standard, I must say. And once the articles are done, the facilitators, such as Abu, go back to the schools, collect the article, collect the images, and then they go back to their office and they upload the content on Wikidia and they upload the images on Wikimedia Commons. And a year later, when there is an update provided to the schools for the offline resources, they get brand new versions of Wikipedia Offline, Wikidia Offline, and they finally get the content where they can see the articles they wrote a year ago or 2 years before. So the cycle of edition and publication is much slower than what we usually know on Wikipedia. It's a 1 year circle, mostly. In terms of figures, we had the contest has been running for 4 or 5 years now, and we had 200 primary schools from disadvantaged and rural areas participated, and over 300 articles have been written by the children and have been published on Wikidia. Yep.
Thank you for that explanation, and it's actually interesting to know that WikiChallenge Ecoles d'Afrique is building, let's say, Wikimedians of the future, if I must say.
Yep. Hopefully, maybe in
Yes.
4 or 5 years, they will be the members of our user groups.
Yes.
I hope so.
Yes. And I, for one, of course, I wish the primary schools in my village could, of course, benefit from this initiative. How do you choose the schools where you deploy, or the schools where you involve in this writing
Yeah,
contest?
I didn't choose them. I didn't choose them. So all the schools are part of the digital schools network of
Oh,
Orange.
okay.
That's over 1,000 schools altogether. And usually the local facilitators in the country decide in their list. They know their schools, they know the people, and they decide which one they will work with. It may be for geographical reason because some of them are very complicated to access. It may be also because they know that in the village, in the school, there is somebody who is a little bit tech motivated and would be willing to push the contest in the schools. So it depends on the situation. But all of the schools are part of the digital network. And that's a very good point because Orange is not everywhere and not all schools belong to the digital network. So we have been thinking of extending the contest to other schools. This is something, for example, we have been discussing for the past 2 years with the Wikimedia Benin. We wanted to do it, and then the pandemics happened and everything just stopped. But Nigeria, we might think of doing something similar, Ceslause, but then you would have to wet your shirt and go in the field and do it. So that's one option, but that's fine. And if Max reappears at some point, I hope very much that we can actually do something with Max in the future. I know they will continue their education program already. So why not adding this piece that is, they already have the system. So why not adding WikiFundi to it and organizing a contest in English, for example, is something we are completely open to.
That's very soothing to know. I mean, you and Doc James, you just made my evening or my day. I mean, letting me know that Nigeria is somewhere in your plans for the future. WikiFundi and Wiki Project Med Foundation. That's really interesting. And then Florence, the WikiFundi tool won the Open
Yeah.
Education Global 2021 award for open infrastructure, first of its kind, if my memory serves me right. What does this mean to you? What does it mean for WikiFundi?
So we really appreciate that. WikiFundi was first published in 2017, 2018, the first release of the software. We made an update 1 year later, and then nothing really was happening till we decided a year ago to further develop the tool in having it in Spanish. And the tool has just been released in December. So we have an updated version in French, an updated version in English, and a brand new version in Spanish, which we hope will be used in South America in particular. So I'm trying to discuss with all the Spanish-speaking group to see what might be set up in terms of education project. So whilst we were working on the brand new tool in 2021, tool being developed with the help of Kiwis and the support of Wikimedia Switzerland, and the main developer being Renaud Gaudin, from Mali. Whilst we were doing this, and just 1 or 2 months before the release, we got the award from Open Education Global. So it was just a perfect timing. We loved it, and we really appreciate to see that the tool begins to be recognized in education, in the education sector for this. And I must point out that in our view, the tool can actually be used in 3 types of situations, and I think it's important to mention. The situation number 1 is for Wikimedians who are already being involved in education programs, in editing training sessions, and who want to have a solution just in case internet goes off. So at any time they are in a meeting, they are having a training session, internet goes off, then they can put that out of their pocket, switch it on, and have a network. At least it saves the day. That's a temporary solution in case the internet goes away. The second big target for us, the biggest target, is obviously the education sector, trying to get the kids acquire new skills. And the third target is it's a more minor target, but I think it's an important one. It's trying to for all the tech, the entrepreneur, the people who are tech savvy, who want to set up their own wiki. Well, they can do that thanks to the box and have something that looks like Wikipedia. So this recognition of the three users and the recognition of the platform by Open Education Global was really something we appreciated. Yes.
That's really nice. I mean, launching in 2017 and getting this level of recognition on the global stage, it's really huge. And with time, we look forward to it bagging much more interest in our awards, let's say regionally and otherwise. And then you made mention of WikiFundi being available in English, French, and Spanish. What other languages do we look out for? I mean, any luck having WikiFundi in native language, let's say Igbo language or Hausa?
So I would say you're probably unlucky on this because it requires quite some time, personal time to set a new version. But what is important is when I say it's in English or French or Spanish, that means the interface, right? Of course, within the wiki, you write the way you want. Any language is fine, right? So for example, you're English speaking, so you can perfectly have an English interface and then write the articles there in Yoruba or Igbo. It's not an issue. It's up to you. It's just a mix. But you know, when we started Wikipedia, it was exactly the same. Our interface was usually in English at first, and it only started being translated over time. So it's just a path. Before I forget, I absolutely must mention that the people who are working, all the people who are working in the offline space, such as Kiwis, such as the project, Wikimed project, and such as WikiFundi and others, have united themselves in a sort of very loose user group, which is called Wikimedia of Offline. That's one of the affiliate user group from the Wikimedia Foundation. And of course, you're welcome to join it. It's not a superstructure things. We have a mailing list, we have a few wiki pages, and we try to get in touch to know what one another is doing. We had a conference a few years in the past, organized, I don't know exactly who organized it, but that was in North Canada, just after Wikimania. But most of the time it's just loose relationship for people interested in offline. So that's part of it. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much, Florence. And guys, you've heard it. There is a coven for these magicians whose interest is in connecting the disconnected world and those who perhaps have internet or electricity problems. And Abu can't get back to us due to his connection too, which is really sad. And in the light of this, thank you very much, Florence, for answering our questions efficiently. Now we move to the Q&A section of the episode. If you have any questions for our guests, please do well to ask so they can give you an answer. Oh, okay. What languages is Wiki made available in? Which have been most popular? That's for you, Doc James.
Yeah, certainly. So I think Yaman put the languages that the app is available into the chat there. The most popular language is English, with the next most popular languages being Arabic and French.
That's interesting. That's almost 10 or thereabout. Yeah, 10 languages so far. That's very interesting to know. Thank you for that response, Dr. James. Is there any other question for any of our guests? Okay, Lexter says, how does WikiFundi compare to other offline solution? You mentioned like Kiwis, Florence, that
Yeah,
should be you.
I can summarize again in one sentence. Kiwis is for reading. It's access to the resources. It hosts Wikipedia offline, Wikiquotes online, TEDx, YouTube videos, Gutenberg, lots of things, but it's read only. It's something you install on your computer, you install on your cell phone, you install on a small server, and you have access to it. But that's just consumption. WikiFundi is a system that allows editing a wiki. It's not resources itself, even if we put resources on WikiFundi, but it's mostly an editing system. And contrary-wise to Kiwis, it's not just a simple app that you download, that's actually a server. That's like a website, right? So the technical requirements are more complicated to Kiwis. And of course, WikiFundi is available through Kiwis. When you set up your system, you can download the WikiFundi as well.
Thank you for that explanation, Florence. I hope Laxta gets the answer. Any more questions? Okay. In the absence of that, we move forward to seeing a text. Okay. Mahuton is asking Doc James, can you please share your experience on dealing with both the WikiMed project and your doctor work by these COVID times when we know doctors are very much more requested? What are the challenges? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm working way too much. Yep, that more or less sums it up. You know, tonight one of my coworkers just came down with COVID, and I just got an email asking me to go back to work again in a few hours. So this is going to be my 17th shift in a row, and I'm going to have to put off, a day off, one more day.
Okay, Doc, I would have to apologize for being on your schedule when you should be resting.
No worries. The most important thing is that everyone needs to make sure they get vaccinated, and everyone needs to make sure they wear a high quality face mask when they're going out in public. And that's the number one thing the people of the world can do to make physicians' jobs easier. The vaccines really work amazingly well.
Thank you. Thank you. So, guys, let's heed to his advice and help him get more rest and work less shifts. Thank you. And then M. Boatman is asking, do you need to have user groups in your country to take part in the mentioned school programs?
So, no. The answer is no, because when we started the project, basically we had user group in only one country, which was Tunisia. And AFEC from Tunisia agreed to join the project and to help train the people. All the other countries, they managed on their own. I was trying distance training them so that they could do the project. That was very complicated. So as soon as I could, I contacted the user group that were emerging to get them in touch with the Orange teams. But the contest is also happening in countries where we don't have yet any user groups. The contest happened in Niger at some point. It was very complicated, so we stopped. It's also in Madagascar. I hope there are some new Wikimedians in Madagascar, so I hope maybe next year we'll have a contact. But no, it's not mandatory. It's just immensely helpful to have at least one Wikimedian that could help. But we can't always rely on a user group, Carol. Yeah.
Thank you for that response. Doc James, someone just sent you love and light. I hope that lightens your boarding. And then I think there's one more question from Laxta. Okay, Laxta is asking Florence, does the WikiFundi work through mobile as well?
Yes and no. That's a sort of an insider, maybe future thing. Right now, it needs the server. Once the server is created, it provides a Wi-Fi over the size of a room or a classroom, for example. So that's like in your house. So this is a server, you'd create the Wi-Fi, and then anyone can connect themselves to the Wi-Fi through the phone, through a tablet, through a computer. It doesn't matter. It's fine. And it can address a dozen users at the same time. But you need the server to make it operate. Once you have the server, it's fine. But I heard recently, I discussed with someone in December, and that person had a very interesting approach. He was saying he's currently testing the system so that he would actually have WikiFundi work on a cell phone. And the connection, and he was also testing that for Kiwis. So he was first testing it for Kiwis and then looking for WikiFundi. And the idea behind this was when people are tired of their old cell phone and they go back to the shops and they give back their old phones, right now these old phones are refurbished and resold. And in this case, the idea would be to refurbish them, but not to sell them, to equip them with the offline content, and then to give them to a teacher. And when the teacher is in the classroom, he wouldn't have to struggle with something like this. He would actually switch on his phone, and the kids would connect themselves to the phone so they get the content. And that's a very interesting solution, because the teachers would have their phones all the time with them. They would be familiar with the phone. It will be less stressful for them to simply switch on the system so that the kids could collect the content. So the person is exploring this. I don't know what it will be holding, what will be organized behind this, but I thought it was a very interesting direction to pursue.
Nice. Thank you so much. And thank you, our special guests, for answering to these questions. And if you have more questions for them, please look for their coven, the Wikimedia for Offline user groups, and then join them. And you can ask away some questions that perhaps you could remember. Oh, thank you so much for sharing the link. That's it on the screen. Wikimedians for Offline Wikis. And the next segment is the news update. So with me today to share the news update is Ruby Brown. She's filling in for my other colleague who usually joins me, Candy Kohiwe. And the first item, hello Ruby.
Hi, can
The
you hear
first
me?
item on, yes, I can hear you. The first item on the news is I wish to let you know that Wiki in Africa is looking for a communications coordinator and a community facilitator. The application, of course, is open up until 31st January 2022 at 5 p.m. anywhere on Earth. Ruby?
Okay, so second on our list is Wiki Loves Africa 2022. And it's amazing that the theme for this year is home and habitat. It is going to be launched on 15th February 2022. So those who are interested to participate in Wiki Loves Africa this year should look out for the link as it will be shared in the chat box.
Yes, and I wish to let you know that all the news updates we share here will be available or are already available in the newsroom segment of Wiki Africa Hour meta page. The Edu Wiki Week 2022 will be happening from 21st to 25th February. Submit your proposals before 30th of January 2022. Registration to attend opens on 5th February 2022.
So, Wikimedia Nigeria is having an office hour tomorrow. That's 29 January 2022, titled Working Together with UNESCO Preserving Africa Heritage. And the time is 12 noon GMT plus 1. So, if you're looking to join this um, office hour, kindly take note of the link that will be shared.
And then the Civitech Fund Africa has opened a call for expression of interest. You can access up to 32,000 euros in funding. Deadline to apply is 30th January 2022.
And there's something exciting. There's a call for feedback about the Board of Trustees election, and it's open and closes on 7th February 2022. So take note. If you have feedback to share, please take note of the deadline.
And Wiki for Human Rights Regional Support and Conversation Hour for Middle East and North Africa region holds on 5th February 2021 at 4 p.m. UTC plus 1 Paris time via Zoom.
You are invited to join the next conversation with the WMF Board of Trustees, and this will be happening on the 17th of April,
February.
1830. Sorry, 17th of February. Thanks so much. At 1830 UTC, and it will be streamed live on YouTube via the link that will be shared. Or you can also request for the Zoom link or send by email at askcac@wikimedia.org.
And we at Wiki in Africa, we were able to launch this very Wiki Africa Hour podcast and run in 2021 with the help of Andrew Lee and Wikipedia Weekly StreamYard platform. And we are very much grateful for this kind gesture extended to us all through last year. And this year, 2022, we decided to move to our own premium StreamYard platform on which we're operating now, this very Wiki Africa Hour episode. And the good news is we encourage any community that perhaps would need to use this platform to reach out to us as we can make it available to you. Thank you.
So, January round of One Lab, One Ref is still ongoing until 5th February. If you're an organizer or you're planning to organize One Lab, One Ref event, make sure that your local event has been added to the Outreach dashboard. And this link will be shared as well.
The candidate submissions for the Wikimedia Steward elections are open. If you are eligible, you can submit a nomination.
Universal Code of Conduct Enforcement Guideline has been published. So if you haven't seen it yet, there will be the link for it for you to have a look at it.
Yes, and please remember to review that. And once again, I wish to remind you that all the news updates we just shared, they are available in the newsroom segment of Wiki Africa Hour meta page. It's not an easy task when it comes to building bridges to reach the disconnected community. But the projects we've discussed today, the initiatives today haven't been discussed, are reasons for us all to get encouraged and possibly join the fight to help bridge this gap. Over 4 billion disconnected people, but as we've seen today, it's possible to put them in the loop, one project at a time. On behalf of the Wiki in Africa team, we thank everyone for showing up. We thank you, Ruby, for filling in for Max. We thank you, Doc James, for taking our time from your busy schedule of shifts to be here. And Florence, thank you so much for being able to join our special guest from the other side today. And Aboubacar, though your network sabotaged you, merci beaucoup si vous êtes là, je sais pas, mais merci d'avoir venu. Thank you for honoring our invitation and making time to be here with us this first episode of the year 2022. I remain Ceslause Ogbonnaya, your host, and I wish you a happy weekend. Please remember to subscribe to the Wiki in Africa YouTube channel to keep tabs on our future episodes and also to perhaps go through our past episodes. We've, of course, discussed very interesting subjects. Please remember to subscribe as, in fact, let me just give you a glimpse of what we have in the future. We will be having the new Wikimedia Foundation ED here with us sometime in the nearest future. So please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. I wish you a happy weekend once again. See you next time.
This episode of WikiAfrica Hour was hosted by Ceslause Ogbonnaya. Let us know what topics you want to discuss and join us next month on the same channels. Subscribe to the Wiki in Africa YouTube channel and follow Wiki Africa on social media.